Okay, so picking up where we left off regarding multi-view projection and geometric constructions, you guys should be looking at Module 3, right? Multi-view projection is all about how we view the world around us, right? So this is the first video for the module for you guys to better understand, in addition to some of the things we are talking about in class. So multi-view projection is the way in which the world and designers and engineers all communicate in 2D on paper and drawings, or even, as you'll learn, in 3D modeling space. But before we can get into advanced concepts of 3D modeling and things like that, we have to understand how to draw 3D objects on 2D. So here I have a quick little cube object, and we're going to pretend like we're looking at this object as a multi-view projection, right? So in other words, there's top, front, and side views, right? If we look at an object, I mean, there's top, front, side, left side, right side, rear, and bottom views, right? It's a cube around the object. It's almost 6 faces. So there's side and there's front. Front view, as you just saw, that's usually the most important one. But the way that we really need to understand how to view an object like these, right, when you're looking at the top, front, and side, it mostly can be determined with just those 3 views, right? So in other words, you want to find that view which is the most complicated or the most informative of your object, and that's your front view. And as you see here while I'm drawing, there's actually a method that helps you visualize to better understand what it looks like on flat paper, right? How to make a 3D object look flat, to create drawings, to ease manufacturing, and to communicate your design effectively. So I'm drawing here an imaginary cube that surrounds the object. Right, and I do this even today, so it doesn't even matter how long you've been drawing. This sometimes can be helpful in understanding. Well, the cube has 6 sides, so you want to show those interior lines as well. Notice how I've dashed those. Real basic. Now, we have to pretend like we're putting that object inside of the cube, right? So you've got your front view, your top view, and your side view, as you'll see. Your front view, the most important and most informative, is usually shown here, right? Your side view, or in this case, the right side view, and finally, the top view, right? As if you were looking down, bird's eye view, right? Like if you're directly overhead looking down on the object. Front view, perpendicular to the plane. Side view, same rules apply, right? And top view. Or better yet, when you look at the top view, you almost want to imagine looking straight down on the object. That's very important to keep in mind your top, front, and side views. Now, the next step we're going to do is we're going to place that little L shape, that cubed object, inside of our glass box. And I'm just sketching this to give you a sense of how to make your mind and your eyes visualize what an object looks like when unfolded, or creating a multi-view projection. Because essentially when we're creating these multi-view projections, we're kind of unfolding an object. So I'm going to sketch in 3D. That shape, right? So I'm just creating a rough sketch to show you kind of what that shape looks like in 3D. Now, the next step, you want to take, I'm going to show those real simple subdivisions of those cubes because it's not really one solid shape. Now, you want to take, and we're going to create these kind of projection lines, right? In other words, these projection lines are going to become really important because we want to pretend like we're projecting or extending surfaces and making them look flat, right? So for instance, the front view would be that highlighted face I just made right there. So you're going to take, using my blue pen, I'm showing you that you would project lines out perpendicular to the surface. Notice I'm coming directly off of the surface, and then I'm going to make a flat view of that shape. And I work my way from every corner, so every point gets projected. And you'll see why that helps you later on as you project these points, right? So there, in other words, there's my front view. Now we're going to do the same thing for the side view, right? So when you're looking from the right side, create our projection lines. Start flattening or showing each point on the surface of the right side. Alright, so there's my vertical line. There's my short block from the far right side. And so this is just an illustration to help you understand better what we're doing in the oncoming pages. Now I've created my right side, right? Even though there's two faces, the faces still appear flat. Same thing for the top view. Even though there's two faces, those faces are still going to appear flat. Projection lines all the way up to the top view plane. Continuing my projection lines, creating a flat view. Right, so in other words, an L-shaped view. So notice this object looks very similar in all views except the height or the width or even the depth changes. Now I'll come back and darken these views to make it clearer. Alright, so now we're representing our bounding edges. So for instance, these might be using your 2B or your 4B to really pop out the edges or the faces of this object. Okay. Now, take a look at that. Carefully understand how we're taking each view of the object and projecting it flat. So, sometimes you have an object that has multiple sides, right? As the book does here, they have colorful faces, right? We have red for the front view, blue for the top, and green for the sides. And there's even other colors you could do for the left side, the rear, or the bottom of the view to show more. And you'll see later on when we do our cube project how that comes into play, because you'll have to learn how to draw all 6 sides of a cube in order to fold it appropriately. Right, so these are examples of that shape being projected into a cube box, a glass cube. So when you are moving on to the next step, you can watch the video following Multiview page 128, and it will show you how to complete those different views. You're going to create projection lines from both edges, as you'll see in the video, and you'll fill in the missing information about the face that is colored. Right, so the red face there you would have shown, that square donut would be shown as a square donut in that view. Even if the angle or the plane is angled, you still want to show that flat. And you'll see here in a little bit why we do that. So as you move on to the next video, you'll see why and how we lay these different things out. Alright, so for instance, every time you start one of these views, if you're given flat views in a 3D shape, look at the object, see what your missing information is, right? Then do your projection lines, right? We want to find those surfaces, those edges, to define the missing view. For instance, in our side view here, that bottom edge tells us where the bottom of the front view is. That first angled edge tells us where the angle of the view starts. And finally, the top shows us where the top of the view is. Right, so we get our height right there. Now we're looking at our width. Our top view tells us the width, right, where that edge is. Finally, where the top face is, and the widest back edge. So those projection lines are so important. In fact, if you're missing those projection lines, there's a really good chance you'll get the drawing wrong or completely incorrect altogether. So this little rectangular shape, you project your top and bottom lines for your height, your lines from your top view for all the features, right? So this little shape has sort of an indentation or a little cutout, and we want to define that cutout by drawing these lines. Now as you move along, you want to go on to the next video for multi-view projection, page 128, and follow along and watch the kind of steps that I provide for you.